Life is just a game, and the moment you understand that, you finally gain the power to control it. Most people will hear that and immediately reject it, because they've been conditioned since childhood to believe life is a moral theater where good behavior is rewarded, bad behavior is punished, and everything eventually balances out if you simply wait your turn. But that belief is the first chain around your neck. The world is not a fair arena designed to honor your sincerity. It is a constructed system filled with invisible hands, silent forces, and incentives you were never taught to see. The men who rise are not the ones who wait for justice. They are the ones who realize there is no justice, only structure, no fairness, only advantage, no order, only the illusion of it, maintained to keep the obedient in line while the aware quietly build their position. Life is not chaos, it is architecture. And if you cannot see the structure, you become part of its foundation, stepped on, leaned on, and used to hold others above you. Most men suffer not because the world is cruel, but because they cling to the fantasy that the world is supposed to care. They walk through life expecting a reward for honesty, for loyalty, for effort, for simply existing the right way. They think being a good person is a strategy. They think patience is a virtue that pays out. They think sacrifice will someday be recognized. And then life strikes them with what feels like betrayal. The friend they defended leaves them behind. The workplace they gave everything to replaces them without hesitation. The partner they were loyal to abandons them the moment a better opportunity appears. They interpret these events as accidents, tragedies, or misfortune, but the truth is simpler and far colder. They played a game they didn't know existed, and they lost to players who understood the rules better. Look at the man who believes loyalty protects him. He stands by his friends, defends them, sacrifices for them, and assumes this guarantees long-term solidarity. But loyalty is not currency in the modern world. Usefulness is. The moment he stops being useful, he is replaced. Not because people are evil, but because they are playing for advantage. Or consider the man with talent, gifted, skilled, praised for his potential. He assumes talent alone entitles him to success, but fails to see how the cunning maneuver behind the scenes. They form alliances, trade favors, manipulate perceptions, and rewrite the very structure he hopes to climb. When the promotion goes to someone less capable but more strategic, he calls it unfair. The game calls it expected. And then there is the man who waits for fairness. He waits for recognition. He waits for someone to notice his hard work. Meanwhile, other men negotiate, position, and move with deliberate self-interest. They don't wait. They play. And because they play, they win. If you want to understand the game, you must first abandon the myth that life rewards purity. It does not. It never has. History is not written by the kind, the innocent, or the righteous. It is written by those who understood the environment they were placed in and adapted with precision. The game rewards awareness. It rewards the man who observes the true mechanics of human nature without flinching. It rewards the man who can detach from emotional expectations and see the world as it is, a network of incentives, desires, fears, hierarchies, and leverage points. Innocence is beautiful, but it is not powerful. Naivety is comforting, but it is not strategic. The spectators remain innocent. The players become powerful. A man becomes dangerous the moment he stops expecting life to treat him gently. When he stops waiting, when he stops hoping someone will save him, when he stops believing that virtue alone will carry him forward. Instead, he begins to shape his existence with precision. He studies incentives, not intentions. He observes actions, not promises. He acts with clarity, not emotion. He doesn't ask, "Why is this happening to me?" He asks, "Who benefits from this?" He doesn't think, "What does this say about me?" He thinks, "What position does this create?" He doesn't react, he calculates. And in that calculation, he steps into a tier of power most men never even realize exists. This is the mental shift that separates the manipulated from the strategist, the passive from the forceful, the dreamer from the one who bends reality in his favor. Once you see life as a game, everything changes. You no longer take betrayal personally. You recognize it as a move. You no longer feel threatened by competition. You welcome it as information. You no longer waste energy complaining. You redirect it into positioning. You stop expecting reward and start creating opportunity. You stop hoping for order and begin building advantage. Emotional reactions dissolve, replaced by clarity. Clarity turns into leverage. Leverage becomes control. And control is the doorway into a world most men will never enter because they refuse to accept they were ever playing. And yet, understanding the game is only the first step. A game is nothing without its players, the hunters, the hunted, and the rare few who decide the roles of both. If you fail to recognize who these people are, you will mistake predators for allies, prey for competitors, and manipulators for friends. And that miscalculation will cost you more than you can imagine. Because in the next layer of this game, the most important truth begins to emerge. Power is rarely taken by force. It is taken by understanding who is sitting across from you. They will tell you that people are complicated, unpredictable, mysterious. But that is only what the untrained eye sees. Once you begin to observe human beings through the lens of power rather than emotion, you realize something unsettling. People are not unpredictable at all. They are patterned. They are motivated by the same instincts, fears, and hungers that have shaped humanity for centuries. And the moment you learn to read those patterns, you gain an advantage that feels almost unfair. Because the truth is this: the game of life is not played against the world, it is played against the people inside it, and most of them don't even know they're on the board. There are only three types of players you must understand: the predators, the prey, and the invisible few who determine the fate of both. The predators are not always violent or cruel. They are simply aware. They see opportunities before others do. They recognize weakness instantly. They understand leverage instinctively. They play with a certain coldness that makes the unaware feel uneasy. These are the individuals who rise in any environment, not because they are the best, but because they treat every interaction as information, every ally as a potential asset, every enemy as a potential advantage, every silence as a negotiation. They do not wait to be chosen, they choose. They do not wait to be invited, they position themselves where the invitation becomes irrelevant. Their advantage begins in the mind, long before it shows in their achievements. Then there are the prey, the people who move through life, reacting instead of acting. They are not weak by nature, they are weak by blindness. They misread intentions, they trust surface appearances. They give loyalty too early and suspicion too late. They believe words over patterns. They assume everyone is like them, kind, honest, sincere, harmless. And because they assume this, they fail to see what others are actually doing. They don't understand the silent wars unfolding around them. They don't see the alliances forming in shadows, the opportunities taken behind their backs, the subtle manipulations shaping their choices. They think they are living freely, unaware that their innocence makes them predictable, and predictability makes them vulnerable. To be predictable in a competitive world is to hand over your fate completely. But the third group is the one most people never meet, and even fewer ever become. These are the invisible players. They are not always the loudest, the richest, or the most feared. Often they are the calmest person in the room, the one who speaks last, the one who seems uninterested in recognition. But their presence shapes the behavior of every other player. They control dynamics without appearing controlling. They influence outcomes without appearing involved. They create hierarchy simply by existing with clarity and direction. These are the men who understand not just the rules of the game, but the psychology of the players. They do not seek power through force. They create it through perception, intelligence, and emotional discipline. Their strength is quiet, but its effects are enormous. To navigate life effectively, you must learn to identify these three types instantly. Most men cannot. They confuse confidence with competence, charm with integrity, vulnerability with innocence. They fall for masks. But a true player sees beyond masks. He pays attention to small details, how someone reacts to pressure, how quickly they change their story when cornered, how they behave when they want something, how they treat those they cannot benefit from. These observations tell you far more than any conversation. People reveal themselves in their patterns, and the moment you learn to read those patterns, you stop being fooled by performances. Consider the man who presents himself as loyal. Watch what he does when loyalty becomes inconvenient. Consider the man who claims he wants what is best for you. Watch whether he supports your growth or subtly sabotages it when it threatens his comfort. Consider the man who says he respects you. Watch how he behaves when you disagree with him. In every interaction, people tell you exactly who they are. The real issue is that most men are not paying attention. They're too emotional, too hopeful, too eager to believe the best. The predators count on that. The invisible players exploit it, and the prey suffer because of it. Once you learn to see these dynamics, something strange begins to happen. People become transparent. Their ambitions become obvious. Their insecurities become visible. Their strategies become readable. And this clarity is not something you can unsee. It changes how you move. It changes how you speak. It changes how you position yourself in social hierarchies. You become deliberate. You become composed. You become unpredictable, not because you are trying to be, but because you are operating from a level of awareness others cannot detect. That alone places you in a different league entirely. Most men fail because they misjudge the players in their lives. They trust the wrong allies. They underestimate the wrong enemies. They assume neutrality where silent rivalry exists. They assume friendship where convenience exists. They assume respect where envy exists. Misreading people is not a minor mistake, it is one of the most expensive errors a man can make. Entire lives have been destroyed by a single misplaced trust, a single underestimated threat, a single alliance formed with someone who had no intention of honoring it. Every downfall has a human name attached to it. But when you see through people, truly see, everything becomes easier. You begin to predict outcomes before they unfold. You sense tension before it becomes conflict. You identify ambition before it becomes competition. You feel betrayal long before it arrives. It is not paranoia, it is perception. The predators sense this clarity and respect it. The prey feel it and fear it, and the invisible players recognize you as someone entering their territory. Because in this game, the greatest power is not control over others. It is the ability to understand them without being understood in return. Yet recognizing the players is only half of the equation. Even the most perceptive man will lose if he plays on a board designed to disadvantage him. The environment you choose determines the battles you face, the opportunities available to you, and the ceiling placed above your potential. And that is the next truth most men never discover. The game isn't just about the players, it's about the board they're standing on. Every man believes he is fighting his own battle, chasing his own goals, and shaping his own destiny. But most never realize that the environment they live in decides more about their future than their willpower ever will. A man can be ambitious, disciplined, intelligent, even ruthless, yet still remain stuck if the board he's standing on was designed to keep him small. And that is the tragedy of most lives. They fight inside cages they mistake for worlds. They confuse limitations with personal flaws. They internalize boundaries that were never theirs to begin with. They blame themselves for outcomes engineered by their environment. Because the truth is simple and cruel. The board determines the winner long before the players make their first move. Look around you. Every environment creates a psychology. A wealthy neighborhood teaches ambition. A poor one teaches survival. A competitive school produces strategists. A chaotic home produces defenders. A room full of high-level thinkers expands your horizon. A room full of complainers compresses it. The human mind adapts to whatever surrounds it, and most men spend their lives adapting to environments that are quietly shrinking them. They think their lack of progress is a personal failure, when it is simply the natural outcome of playing on the wrong board. Even the most powerful player becomes predictable when trapped inside an environment built on scarcity, gossip, distraction, or mediocrity. You become what the board demands. A man surrounded by people who fear risk will begin fearing risk. A man surrounded by those who settle will begin lowering his standards. A man surrounded by constant conflict becomes reactive instead of strategic. A man surrounded by comfort loses his hunger. Your environment pulls the strings long before you ever take action, and this is why most men never rise. They try to elevate their lives without elevating the ground they stand on. They try to change their future without changing the soil that grows it. They try to gain power while remaining in places that drain it. They think they can out-discipline their environment, unaware that environment is stronger than discipline. You cannot win a game played on a board that does not benefit your nature. Walk into any room and watch how the board shapes the players. In a place where men gossip, the strongest become silent targets. In a place where envy dominates, a talented individual becomes a threat rather than an inspiration. In a place where fear governs behavior, courage becomes a sin. In a place where no one dreams bigger than survival, ambition is mocked. The board punishes the traits required for victory and rewards the traits that ensure stagnation. This is why some men shine only after leaving the places that suffocated them. The moment they switch boards, their potential explodes. Suddenly they seem lucky, gifted, chosen, but nothing changed except the environment that once kept them small. Meanwhile, consider environments built to elevate, spaces where power is normalized, not demonized, where ambition is expected, not ridiculed, where discipline is admired, not questioned, where excellence is the standard, not the exception. In such places, even average men rise simply because the board supports their ascent. They absorb the psychology of those above them. They learn to think in terms of leverage, not excuses. They start moving strategically because the environment itself rewards strategy. Place a mediocre man in a powerful environment and he becomes competent. Place a powerful man in a mediocre environment and he becomes irrelevant. The board either amplifies or destroys your potential, nothing in between. But here is the hidden truth most refuse to accept. Environments are not neutral. They are engineered. Someone chose the rules, someone shaped the culture, someone set the hierarchy, someone decided what behaviors are rewarded and what behaviors are punished. Every environment is a psychological design, a board crafted by invisible hands. Some boards are built to produce conformity, some to produce dependency, some to produce loyalty, some to produce obedience, and a rare few are built to produce power. The tragedy is that most men spend their lives inside environments built by others, following rules they never agreed to, trying to win a game that quietly uses them as pieces. To take control of your life, you must take control of your board. You must become deliberate about the spaces you enter, the people you surround yourself with, the energy you allow to shape you. You must evaluate every environment with surgical clarity. Does this place feed my potential or starve it? Does it sharpen me or soften me? Does it force growth or encourage stagnation? Does it elevate my standards or drain them? Anything that weakens you, mentally, emotionally, strategically, is a board designed to make you lose. And anything that challenges you, confronts you, sharpens you, exposes your weaknesses, and demands evolution, is a board that prepares you to win. A man becomes dangerous the moment he realizes he doesn't have to accept the board he was born on. He can walk away from environments that diminish him. He can enter spaces that force adaptation. He can build boards of his own, rooms governed by his rules, his values, his hierarchy. And once he masters this, his entire life begins to shift. His decisions sharpen, his confidence grows, his direction solidifies. Because power isn't just something you gain through effort, it emerges naturally when you place yourself on a board where power is possible. Yet even this awareness is not enough unless you understand the next layer of the game. Once you choose your board, once you recognize its hidden design, once you see how environments shape the players inside them, the question becomes, what rules govern these boards, and why were they hidden from you? Every game has rules, but the most powerful games hide them. Society teaches you the surface laws. Pay your taxes, be polite, follow protocol, obey authority. But beneath those polite illusions lies a second layer of laws that actually determine who rises and who collapses. These rules are not written in books, not announced in public, not taught in school. They are learned through experience, observation, and pain. They are the rules that govern power, competition, hierarchy, perception, and influence. And the reason most men never gain control of their lives is because they keep following the rules designed to keep them predictable, manageable, and harmless, while others follow the rules that create advantage. The first hidden rule is that perception is more powerful than truth. Weak men cling to truth, believing that reality alone determines outcomes. Strong men understand that the world moves according to what people think is real. A man who appears confident is treated as competent. A man who appears important is given opportunities. A man who appears dominant is granted respect. A man who appears certain is trusted. Meanwhile, the man who thinks, if I tell the truth, people will understand, is crushed by those who engineer perception deliberately. Truth matters, but only after perception has already decided the outcome. The game rewards those who shape what others see, not those who shout what is real. Another rule, alliances matter more than force. Most people imagine power as a solitary trait, a strong individual imposing his will on the world. But real power comes from networks, influence, social positioning, the ability to call in favors, mobilize support, or create silent pressure through connections. The man who moves alone may be dangerous, But the man who moves with silent backing becomes untouchable. This is why cunning people build friendships strategically, maintain relationships carefully, and choose their inner circle with precision. Power is rarely won through confrontation. It is won through quiet alignment with the right individuals. There is also the rule of incentives, the engine behind every human decision. People can be convinced, manipulated, inspired, or coerced, but the most reliable method of control is understanding what they truly want. Incentives reveal everything. The man who wants validation can be steered through praise. The man who wants certainty can be controlled through fear. The man who wants money can be shaped through opportunity. The man who wants money can be shaped through opportunity. The man who wants money superiority can be provoked through envy. The man who wants peace can be pressured through discomfort. To understand incentives is to understand human behavior, and once you understand behavior, the game becomes predictable. Another rule: people do not act based on morality. They act based on consequences. They avoid betrayal not because it is wrong, but because they fear being caught. They show kindness not because they are good, but because kindness earns them something. They obey rules not because they respect authority, but because authority can punish them. Change the consequences, and you change the behavior. Remove the fear, and loyalty evaporates. Remove the reward, and motivation dies. People speak endlessly about morality, but their actions follow incentives and consequences, never words. There is the rule of scarcity. Whatever is scarce becomes valuable, respected, desired, and feared. This applies to resources, but it also applies to behavior. The man who is difficult to access becomes intriguing. The man who speaks rarely becomes influential. The man who controls his reactions becomes unpredictable. The man who gives little becomes respected. The man who is not impressed becomes powerful. Scarcity creates leverage. Abundance creates indifference. Most men ruin themselves because they give too much of what should be scarce: their time, their attention, their effort, their emotions. The game rewards the man who understands supply and demand, especially when the supply is himself. Then there is the rule no one wants to accept. Conflict is unavoidable. You can avoid arguments, avoid competition, avoid confrontation, but you cannot avoid the consequences of avoiding them. Every man who tries to remain neutral eventually finds himself controlled by someone who embraced conflict early. Every man who tries to keep the peace eventually becomes a pawn in someone else's war. Every man who refuses to draw lines eventually gets crossed. The game punishes passivity. The world belongs to those willing to confront, decide, and enforce. Finally, the most uncomfortable rule of all: the masses must believe one thing while the powerful operate by another. Most men are told to be transparent, while the winners move in silence. Most are told to be selfless, while the winners pursue strategic self-interest. Most are told to obey without question, while the winners question everything. Most are told to follow the path, while the winners build their own. The system depends on this division. It needs spectators to admire the game while never learning how to play it. It needs obedient workers who confuse compliance with goodness, routine with stability, and stagnation with virtue. The masses are taught rules that keep the game intact. The powerful follow rules that bend the game to their will. Once you learn these hidden laws, something inside you shifts. The world becomes readable. People become predictable. Opportunities become visible. The confusion that once overwhelmed you fades, replaced by precision. You stop asking, "Why is this happening?" and start asking, "Which rule is being applied here?" You stop feeling outmaneuvered and start recognizing the mechanics behind every interaction. You stop reacting emotionally and begin responding strategically. Knowledge of these rules does not make you paranoid, it makes you prepared. It gives you a map in a world where others wander blindly. But knowing the rules is only the beginning. A man can understand the hidden laws and still remain powerless if he does not know how to use them. Awareness is not dominance. It is merely the doorway. To truly control the game, you must transform these rules into strategy, deliberate, calculated, and executed with precision. And that is where the players who only observe are separated from the players who reshape the board itself. To understand strategy, you must first understand this: power is never taken by accident. It is accumulated, engineered, positioned, and executed through a series of deliberate moves that appear invisible to everyone except those who have studied the game long enough to recognize them. Most men lose not because they lack strength, intelligence, or ambition. They lose because they move without a map. They act from emotion, impulse, and insecurity, while the powerful move from structure, leverage, and foresight. Strategy is not brilliance. It is simply the discipline to think before you act, to act with intention, and to ensure every decision strengthens your position rather than weakens it. The man who masters strategy stops living reactively and begins shaping the world around him like clay. A true strategist begins by choosing his battles because he understands that energy is finite and every conflict has a price. The average man fights every insult, every competition, every provocation, every distraction. He exhausts himself trying to win wars that give him nothing in return. The strategist fights only where the reward is greater than the risk. He never displays his full strength unless the outcome justifies it. He is willing to appear weak if it protects his advantage, willing to remain silent if speaking reveals too much, willing to lose small battles if they secure a larger victory. What looks like humility is calculation. What looks like avoidance is positioning. What looks like patience is preparation. The powerful do not win by force. They win by refusing to bleed for anything that does not elevate their position. Another element of strategy is the manipulation of information. The average man speaks too much, reveals too much, explains too much. He believes transparency earns trust, unaware that transparency also hands over leverage. A strategist controls information the way a king controls territory, cautiously, deliberately, and with an understanding of what every disclosure will cost him. He reveals nothing that weakens him and everything that misleads those who wish to predict him. His silence becomes a weapon, his ambiguity becomes a shield, his unpredictability becomes a threat. People cannot target what they cannot read, and they cannot sabotage what they cannot understand. This is why the most dangerous individuals are always the least reactive. Their restraint creates fear. A strategist also masters the art of positioning. He does not try to convince others of his value. He creates environments where his value is undeniable. He does not ask for respect. He moves in a way that makes disrespect costly. He does not chase opportunities. He designs a reputation that attracts them. Positioning is not about arrogance. It is about recognizing that perception shapes treatment. A man positioned correctly is assumed to be competent, trusted instinctively, granted influence naturally. He can speak less and achieve more because the board itself works in his favor. Strategy is not loud. It is the quiet arrangement of circumstances so that victory becomes the default outcome. But strategy is not merely defensive. It is also the art of pressure. The powerful know how to apply subtle pressure that makes others move in the direction they want without realizing they were influenced. They use scarcity to create desire, silence to create anxiety, authority to create compliance, uncertainty to create caution. They understand that people are governed not by logic but by emotional impulses, fear, pride, greed, insecurity, desire. A strategist leverages these impulses gently, almost invisibly. He pushes without appearing forceful, guides without appearing controlling, and influences without appearing involved. To the outside world, the moves seem natural. Only the strategist knows they were engineered. Another hallmark of strategy is the ability to detach emotionally. The average man lets anger dictate his reactions, pride dictate his decisions, and insecurity dictate his self-worth. This makes him easy to provoke, easy to manipulate, easy to predict. The strategist, however, treats emotions like weather, acknowledged, but never allowed to determine navigation. He does not respond to insults, because insults reveal nothing useful. He does not act from anger, because anger blinds him to consequences. He does not beg for approval, because approval is irrelevant to positioning. Detachment is not coldness, it is control. Emotional neutrality allows him to see moves others are too overwhelmed to recognize. A high-level strategist also understands timing, the most underrated form of intelligence. Acting too early reveals weakness. Acting too late reveals hesitation. Acting at the right moment reveals mastery. Every shift in a relationship, every change in an environment, every fracture in a hierarchy creates timing windows, small openings where decisive action produces maximum effect. Most men miss these windows because they are distracted, emotional, or unsure. The strategist waits, watches, and strikes only when the result is inevitable. His timing makes him appear lucky, but luck is simply the reward for precision. And perhaps the most powerful strategy of all is the art of leverage. Leverage is the multiplier that turns small actions into massive results. A strategist studies people's needs, fears, alliances, and ambitions, and identifies the pressure points that move them. He doesn't overpower people, he tilts them. He doesn't threaten, he incentivizes. He doesn't dominate through force, he creates conditions where others choose what benefits him. Leverage allows him to win battles without fighting, gain loyalty without begging, create influence without demanding it. This is the true signature of power, the ability to move the world without appearing to push. But strategy, no matter how refined, leads to something far greater. There comes a point where a man who has learned the players, mastered the board, and internalized the hidden rules, begins to feel the contours of something deeper, a level of control that transcends tactics, a level where strategy becomes identity, presence becomes influence, and a single move can shift an entire environment. That is where the final transformation begins, the ascent into becoming untouchable. There is a moment in every powerful man's life when strategy stops feeling like effort and begins feeling like nature. His movements become quieter, yet more decisive. His presence grows heavier, yet more controlled. His influence expands without announcement, without conflict, without visible force. This is the final evolution, the point where you stop playing the game consciously and begin shaping it unconsciously. And this is what the masses never understand. Becoming untouchable is not about dominance. It is about removing every handle the world could use to pull you down. When a man reaches this level, he becomes a figure others adjust themselves around. He is no longer a participant, he is the axis. To become untouchable, a man must first eliminate emotional leverage. The world only has power over people who can be provoked. You are touched when pride can be used against you, touched when insecurity can be exploited, touched when validation can lure you, touched when fear can corner you, touched when anger can blind you. An untouchable man feels emotion, but does not respond through it. His internal world is disciplined, and that discipline makes him unpredictable. He cannot be baited. He cannot be guilted. He cannot be manipulated through flattery or shame. He is not controlled by approval or threatened by rejection. His neutrality becomes his armor. The world cannot move a man who does not need anything from it. The next step toward untouchability is economic clarity. Most men are controlled through money, by needing it, by chasing it, by fearing its loss. The untouchable man structures his life so that no one can threaten him financially. He builds skills that cannot be replaced, income streams that cannot be easily disrupted, and habits that keep him disciplined rather than dependent. He does not overspend to impress people he doesn't respect. He does not bind himself to obligations that trap him. His lifestyle is intentionally lighter than his earning capacity, so money serves him instead of owning him. The moment a man is no longer financially vulnerable, the world's grip weakens significantly. He becomes someone who chooses, not someone who begs. Another element is psychological opacity. The untouchable man does not reveal his full intentions, limits, emotions, or strategies. People cannot predict what they cannot read. Most men talk themselves into disadvantage, oversharing, explaining, confessing, narrating every thought. The untouchable man creates deliberate distance. Not cruelty, not arrogance, simply opacity. He lets people see only what is useful for them to see. He understands that mystery creates power and silence creates authority. The less people know, the less they can exploit. The less you explain, the harder you are to frame. The less you reveal, the harder you are to attack. Power grows in the shadows you intentionally maintain. To become untouchable, you must also master the art of exit. Every powerful man knows how to walk away from people, from environments, from alliances, from opportunities that no longer serve him. Attachment is vulnerability. Dependency is vulnerability. Staying where you are no longer respected is vulnerability. The ability to withdraw calmly, without emotional theatrics, without negotiation, without announcement, is one of the most terrifying strengths a man can possess. Because when you can leave at any moment, no one can imprison you psychologically. And when no one can imprison you psychologically, you become someone they cannot afford to lose, which flips the power dynamic entirely. The untouchable man also controls his time. He does not allow everyone access to his attention. He does not scatter himself across trivial tasks or meaningless conversations. He is intentional with his hours, ruthless with his focus, and selective with his commitments. Time is the one resource that exposes a man's hierarchy of values. Most men give it away carelessly, proving themselves cheap without realizing it. The untouchable man invests his time where it multiplies, in mastering his craft, strengthening his body, sharpening his mind, upgrading his environment, and building systems that elevate his future. When a man's time becomes expensive, his presence becomes valuable, and his absence becomes felt. That is power. Another trait: the untouchable man does not compete where competition is crowded. He does not wrestle for validation in saturated arenas. He understands that competing directly drains energy, creates enemies, and yields minimal reward. Instead, he positions himself in lanes where his strengths are amplified and his weaknesses are irrelevant. He creates a category where he is the only point of reference. He becomes incomparable, and because he is incomparable, he becomes immune to the usual forms of rivalry. You cannot be beaten in a race no one else is running. But the final, deepest layer of untouchability is identity. A man becomes untouchable when he stops negotiating who he is. When his self-perception is rooted in internal standards rather than external noise. When his values are chosen deliberately rather than inherited unconsciously. When his purpose is self-generated rather than crowd-influenced. When his path is built intentionally rather than stumbled in. Most men are fragile because their identity is outsourced to culture, to friends, to parents, to trends, to approval, to fear. The untouchable man's identity is forged, not borrowed. It becomes the unmovable core around which his actions, boundaries, and direction are built. Once identity becomes self-authored, no insult can destabilize him, no rejection can shrink him, no praise can inflate him. He becomes internally governed, and that is the essence of being untouchable. When a man reaches this level, something remarkable happens. He stops reacting to the game and begins bending it. People sense his steadiness and adjust their behavior around him. Environments shift to accommodate his presence. Opportunities come to him instead of him chasing them. Conflicts resolve themselves out of respect or uncertainty. Allies feel safer near him. Enemies hesitate to move against him. His silence carries weight. His decisions create ripples. His direction becomes a gravitational force. He becomes someone whose existence alters the dynamics of any room he enters. And yet, even this is not the final truth. Because when you become untouchable, the game begins to reveal its last secret, a hidden layer that only the strongest men ever discover. The layer that explains why some men seem to move effortlessly while others remain trapped. The layer that defines the difference between those who manipulate the world and those who reshape it entirely. If you've made it this far, it's because a part of you already knows this truth. Life is not chaos, it's a game, a predictable one. The players who suffer are the ones who don't know the rules. The ones who win are those who learn to read the board, control their emotions, and move in silence. Now tell me in the comments, are you ready to stop playing blindly? Are you willing to study the game instead of being used by it? If this message touched you, if it made sense, write in the comments, "I control the game." Let's see how many here are truly ready to stop being pieces and start becoming players. And don't forget, keep watching the next video. It's important, much more than you imagine. See you there.